In a quiet house on the outskirts of town, somewhere in the night, a lonely man slept. The room was dark and the wind outside the window howled like a ghost. While he slept, things began to happen that could hardly be explained rationally. Suddenly, there was an eerie scraping sound in the room, and the furniture began to move on its own. Chairs slid across the floor, pictures on the walls fell and broke, and books flew through the air. The man woke up, gripped by terror, but he couldn't move. And then, from behind the curtains, he saw a little girl in white clothes, with a face covered with cracks and a frightened expression. She stood in a dark corner of the room, holding an old doll with embroidered eyes. Her presence was so terrifying that one felt as if one's soul was being torn apart. Then shadows began to appear from the dark corners of the room, taking strange shapes, and the girl began to approach the sleeping man. She walked through the wall and into his nightmares. The man screamed and begged for mercy, but the girl was not too persistent in absorbing his essence. When morning came, all was quiet, and the man woke up in a ruined room. His bed was shattered, the furniture had fallen over, and the walls were covered in incomprehensible symbols. The girl was gone, but her horrifying face remained in his memory forever. He never slept in that house again and left it, but the horror of that night and the terrifying girl stayed with him forever in his nightmares. In a small town, there existed an abandoned school named Ghostly School. No one knew why it had been closed many years ago, but rumors had it that horrifying events had occurred there. Under the cover of night, two groups of adventurous souls decided to venture into this school to uncover the mysteries of the past. One day, the first group of friends, including Max, Lisa, and Jake, decided to spend a night at the Ghostly School. As they entered, the air turned cold and the atmosphere grew tense. They heard footsteps and rustling, as if someone was watching them. In the hallways, eerie whispers echoed and ghostly faces flickered in the windows. The friends tried to decipher messages written in blood on the boards and walls. Disparately exploring the premises, they stumbled upon a basement, which proved to be even more terrifying. Inside the basement, they found ancient diaries of former students, describing their nightmares and visions. It turned out the school had been built on the site of an old graveyard, and many believed that the souls of the departed lingered, cursing the place. In the evening, when they decided to leave the building, the doors and windows of the school slammed shut, locking them inside. Gradually, the friends began to see apparitions and hear ominous cries. They fought for their lives, trying to find a way out, but the school transformed before their eyes like a living nightmare. Paranormal forces intensified their attacks, and the friends felt the school attempting to consume their souls. Finally, after endless hours of terror, they discovered an ancient ritual that could free them. The temptation to offer a sacrifice was the final straw, but they rejected that idea, choosing a different path. With all their strength, they performed the ritual and liberated the trapped souls. The school's doors opened, and the friends escaped the nightmare, but they would never forget that horrifying night. The school remained abandoned and desolate, but it was now free from the malevolent forces that once haunted it. The second group of adventurers, consisting of Amy, Tom, and Sarah, decided to spend a night at the Ghostly School. They arrived unaware of the first group and encountered the same atmosphere of horror. Upon entering the school, the walls started to move, and photographs of departed students began to vanish. Amy heard whispers compelling her to run, but she couldn't leave. All three of them began to see visions and feel genuine terror. They decided to explore the school and ended up in the basement, a place of genuine nightmares. All three started hearing the cries and wails of the departed, and then they saw ghostly figures, forcing them to confront their forgotten fears. They quickly realized that the school wanted to make them a part of this dreadful history forever. In search of salvation, they found an ancient amulet that, according to legend, could close the gates to the world of ghosts. With determination and courage, they performed a ritual using the amulet, causing the school to tremble and crack. Eventually, the doors opened, and they escaped the nightmare, never to return to that place. This harrowing adventure left an indelible mark on them, reminding them that some secrets are better left undiscovered. In a small town, hidden amidst dark forests, there lived a young man named Jake. He was always a bit peculiar and avoided the company of his peers. His only companion was an old, abandoned cabin in the woods, where he often sought refuge from the worldly noise. One evening, when the forest was shrouded in darkness, Jake decided to head to the cabin. The night was cold and the woods emitted eerie sounds. As he approached the cabin, he noticed that the door was slightly ajar, although he was certain he had closed it the last time. Upon entering, he found the room in semi-darkness, and the flickering light from a lamp created an eerie atmosphere. Completely losing his sense of safety, Jake summoned the courage to peer into the dark room around the corner. As he got closer, the smell of decay and dead leaves grew stronger. In the room sat an old armchair, and in it sat something utterly inexplicable. He approached and saw his own reflection in a mirror. But it wasn't his reflection. What sat in the armchair was his doppelganger, but its eyes were vacant, and its face was distorted. Jake felt his own body slowly dissolving, as if he was becoming a part of this gloomy room. His own scream of horror was the last thing he heard before his essence vanished in that cursed cabin, becoming a part of an endless nightmare that would forever remain forgotten in the forest's darkness. Since then, no one in the small town dared to enter those woods. Legends of the mysterious cabin and the vanished young man became part of terrifying stories with which the town's elders scared their children. Once in a small, abandoned house on the outskirts of a desolate town, a lone figure found an old, dusty mirror. As they gazed into its cracked surface, their reflection began to distort, twisting and contorting into a grotesque, nightmarish version of themselves. No matter how hard they tried to look away, their own twisted reflection held them captive, whispering chilling secrets and foretelling a future filled with darkness and despair. Trapped in that nightmarish reflection, the figure's screams echoed through the empty house, unheard by the world outside.